So I was actually a pretty big fan of Calvin Klein Defy when it first came out. And as I said in that first impressions video, and every time I've talked about it pretty much, this is Calvin Klein, and we know that they are not going to stop at one. So this was the birth of a whole new line of potential flankers waiting to be released. And it's probably going to be an every year type of deal, probably going to be some limited edition ones and all that stuff. And we have the first flanker now. It's going to be Calvin Klein Eau de Parfum, keeping it nice and simple here. And like I mentioned, I'm excited to try the Eau de Parfum here because I really like the original. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, the original here has a little bit of a YSL-Y EDP smell DNA, and that may sound, kind of cookie cutter, and it may sound repetitive, but with the original, you get a real heavy dose of vetiver in the dry down, sending it in a much more woody and kind of masculine direction, so to speak. So it really takes a nice turn that you got to make sure you stay through the entire scent to pick up on. If you spray it in the air on a tester strip and you smell it once and give up on it, you're missing out on a lot. So I'm curious to see how the Eau de Parfum is. I will link the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum down below. This is fully available here in the United States now, where you can pick it up at retail price, of course, but it'll still be out there for you. The new releases are really starting to pick up as we get closer and closer to fourth quarter here. At the end of the year, things are really ramping up. So stay tuned, get subscribed to the channel. We'll be checking out all of these new releases together. So let's go and get this one on skin, and we'll see how it is. Yeah, I have high hopes, but you never know. So right off the bat, it's a lot more different than the EDT, at least to me. You're not really getting that YSL-Y sweetness, kind of that blue bubblegum sweetness. None of that here. It's sweet, but in a different way, in a richer way, that sort of thing. So they do give us a little bit of a note breakdown. You have mandarin orange up top, black pepper in the mid, and then leather and vetiver in the base. So, that's one note shy from being a three-note note breakdown. So you don't really get a whole lot of information here. But I do get that kind of sweet orange immediately right off the top there, and then the leather coming through pretty strong. And now it's also important to note that just because they only give us 4, it's not like they only have 4 notes in here. There's going to be other notes that I'm sure you'll discover along the way. I am getting the pepper though, the black pepper spiciness. Not so much like right off the bat when I sprayed it, but now it's kind of coming through, getting up a little bit of a spice here. Almost like a slight warm spice, not a cardamom, but just kind of a warm spicy smell. Good dose of woods in this one. Vetiver, sure, but also to me kind of like a cedarwood, sandalwood mix, especially the sandalwood type of smell, because typically that note will be a little bit creamy and sweet, and it's of a softer variety of a woody note. Cedarwood kind of has a rough and dry texture sometimes. Vetiver can also be kind of dry and sometimes soapy in some instances, but to me it's kind of like a sandalwood here. Mixing with that leather in the base, that kind of black pepper spiciness. You're also going to get a little bit of a spicy kick from the leather also. And then the orange, like I had mentioned, just kind of gives it a little bit of a fruity sweet opening, but not like an apple fruity sweetness like Eau de Parfum, just more of a creamy blanket of sweetness when you first spray it on. Believe it or not, it actually has a good amount of dimension to it. This is not cheap at retail price by any means. And even at discount price for the original Eau de Toilette, it's not in that cheapy zone yet. So they're, expensive fragrances still. Calvin Klein is usually a brand where eventually they'll get down to about $20, $25. Hopefully these make it down around that point. If they can get into the $30 range, they're going to be some great pickups. But, when you think about it, at that typical Calvin Klein price, it really does have some good quality and some kind of interesting facets about it. A lot of times fragrances that are from the brand but also just fall into that lower price range can be kind of flat, kind of two-dimensional and kind of boring. There isn't a whole lot going on in between the lines. It's kind of just like you put your nose on it, you smell it once, and that's it. That's all you get. But with the new Eau de Parfum, there's some depth to it, some dimension. You can kind of have the layers separated where I get the black pepper, and then just behind that I get the leather, and behind that I get some like the sandalwood, the vetiver, the other woods, and that sort of thing. along with some other sweet notes in here. There's probably like an amber, maybe even a tiny bit of tonka bean. So you just have a little bit more going on. And I find even more so with this here than the original EDT. Again, I really like that one, but just the sheer amount of depth and kind of richness in the layers that this one has is actually pretty impressive. So I really like the gradient. One thing that people will look at here and think is that it looks very similar to YSL Eau de Parfum, the bottle. And I just want to clarify that this smells absolutely nothing like that. It really doesn't smell a whole lot like the Eau de Toilette either. So that's kind of the direction that this one goes here. Now, it is an eau de parfum, as you know, and so performance is something we'll have to test and we'll see in the future. Now we're kind of starting to actually move into the perfect season for this one, kind of moving into fall. Temperatures are going to be cooling off. It's a really good time to wear this one. So I will test it and follow up with a full review probably in a month or so. But so far, you know, it's actually holding strong. Like I can smell it right now. I don't need to bring my nose right up to it to smell it. You know, I'm picking up on it in the air. It's got surprisingly decent projection here so far. And one thing I've said before, you can sometimes tell when a fragrance is going to be super weak within the first 10 minutes or so. If you spray it on and it's already starting to take a back seat and kind of dwindle down, then you can be confident that it's like, all right, probably not going to be that strong of a scent. But this one's holding strong still. That's not always a tried and proven method that works every single time. Like, oh, it's going good for 10 minutes. It's going to be an 8-hour performer. I'm not saying that, but I do think it'll be at least decent here. The longer it sits, the more the leather is coming through and kind of the less that orangey sweetness is coming through. So it's kind of making that shift. Pretty strong on the leather, the black pepper, and the woods. The vetiver, creamy sandalwood, even like a cedar wood to me. Pretty heavy in the woods there on the lower end of this one in the dry down. So, you know, it's going to be one where if you want something that is going to be not your typical new release that's super sweet and actually has a little bit of a masculine depth to it and just maybe a little bit more bold than a lot of other things that are being put out, I would kind of maybe look into this one. You know, I did pay retail, of course, and while I don't always encourage people to go out and do that, I gotta say for me, I'm actually surprisingly not too upset with that retail purchase. I'm not saying that you guys should go out and do that because realistically, you can wait on it and save yourself some money, hopefully at discounters in the future. Probably won't take that long to get there. But for me, I was kind of going into this like, okay, I hope I don't regret the retail price. I'm going to buy it regardless, but it actually kind of does hold up. So that's pretty cool. You know, I was expecting something more similar to the EDT. That's not the case here, but I also can't really complain either. It's one of those fine lines, and you see comments all the time when people are talking about a flanker. You know, it's either, oh, this flanker isn't good because it smells nothing like the original, or, oh, this flanker isn't good because it smells too similar to the original. There's two sides of the camp, and literally you cannot please everyone here. So for someone who maybe wants something that differentiates from the EDT, check this one out. If you're someone who wanted something more similar but just stronger, this isn't going to be that. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Calvin Klein Defy Eau de Parfum. Bottle is super sleek. I love that gradient. Very sharp. It's going to look nice next to the Eau de Toilette bottle. And like I said, it's impressive. I think it's pretty good. The quality, the dimension, it's all there. I would like to see this one hit discounters and drop down to the $30, maybe even $35 range. I think at that price point, this would be an absolute killer pickup, especially for kind of the transition seasons, fall, spring, early winter, that sort of thing. I think that's where I see this one fitting best. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, get subscribed, check out my community tab. I post deals all the time. I will link these down below. And we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.